Hi Aries, I'm going to do something a little bit different that I probably haven't done on the channel for quite a while. So it's not a monthly reading, it is a transition reading, and I want to call these, for all of the zodiacs, I want to call these the eclipse transition, because in very many ways this energy is sitting deep within the subconscious layers, if you like. So as an example, with planetary transits, when retrogrades happen, we don't necessarily feel them until it sort of gets to that bottleneck energy and the planet is about to go into direct motion. All right, so with eclipse transits, there's very much this 4-year period of similar and linking themes, and any of us can naturally relate in very practical examples when we're closing off chapters, whether that be career paths, relationships, versions of ourselves, where we live, whatever the case may be. There's always going to be connections to the old in some way. That energy is going to be permeating as the new continues to call us. So it can take quite a while when it comes to evolutionary development of the conscious, of expanding consciousness, to naturally step into that future version of self. Yeah, it sounds all romantic and optimistic when we sort of see that come up in the cards, and this is where you're heading to. But in many ways, Aries, it does take us quite that deeper integration process, which on the surface looks like us taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. So in many ways, each and every day is a battle against the fears, yeah, the deeper shadow drive. So what I wanted to do was take a look at the eclipse transition from 2020 into 2021, and in very many ways how this still tells a bigger story that perhaps was spanning back through to 2018 to where we are headed, okay, as far as the next 2 years into 2023. So that's where I want you to sort of place your consciousness, place your mind, place your observer glasses on. And I'm going to go through and cover the houses that these eclipses have been hitting within your life areas, okay? So we had a Cancer Capricorn North Node, South Node eclipse between 2018 into 2020. 2020 was a transition year where we transitioned the North Node to Gemini. And so now we're in an eclipse cycle of Gemini and Sagittarius, which hits 2 other areas of your life. You will see linking themes from how the North Node was hitting a certain area of your life, and now it's hitting a new area of your life, as an example. We also have a random eclipse in Taurus this year, which ultimately introduces a 2-year trajectory. So I love working with eclipse energy. It is always about transformation. It's about eclipsing the old, eclipsing the shadows, eclipsing the veil. So we can see where we are. We can see the patterning that has led us to here. More importantly, we can see the path ahead. Hence, I'd love to do an eclipse transition series for all of the zodiacs as far as a 2020 into 2021 reading goes, because you know, when you look at all the global events, when you look at sort of the consciousness that many in the collective may be embodying, a lot of us have, like, when the scene changes, when everything outside of self is fundamentally shifted and changed, like I said, it's very romantic to say we're entering this Aquarian era of light. But the reality is, as human beings, within the levels of consciousness we are all at normally, you know, its change can be quite scary. We can almost, you know, fall into patterning of waiting for life to present to us so we can determine how we're going to react and respond, i.e. rather than being the master creators of that. So, you know, when it comes to deeper soul work, when it comes to manifestation, it's all well and good to be able to say, thoughts become things and whatnot, but it isn't that easy. And understanding the deeper hidden layers, the deeper subconsciousness patterning at play, and how we might be influenced goes a hell of a way in helping us understand how we can sort of clear the path ahead in many ways. All right, my lovely Arians, what I'm going to do is take a look at the areas of your life that were being affected by the Cancer Capricorn eclipse axis. Now, first and foremost, let's look at these numbers. 2020 was a Master 22 year. Yes, it was a very beautiful opportunity for us to master and look at what life has taught us. More importantly, how have we been taught by life? What did it teach us? Where do I fundamentally want to create massive shifts in beliefs, perceptions, whatever the case may be? It was a foundation year This year is a 5 year. It's very expansive. It's inviting us into expanding horizons. There's an exciting energy, or at least a desire to expand, because they're, you know, like, look at the collective energy and what was happening globally, what still is happening globally. Many are in this holding zone, and we've gone from feeling optimistic about the year ahead, which we may have been feeling, transitioning out of 2019 into 2020, and then boom, all old structures started to collapse. And so in many ways, have we been surviving? And how long has it been since we've felt like we were thriving? So there's this holding bay energy, yeah? And that's why I also wanted to take a look at this eclipse transition energy. 5 is an innovative year. It invites us into innovation. We're going to seek expansion, travel of the mind, travel of the self, travel of ourselves outside of our comfort zones, okay? But if I add those two numbers together, I get 9. In very many ways, in order to successfully step into the new, like 9 is the number of closures and endings, the higher view, the collective, the summary of all parts, by looking back and seeing how much I've grown, where to from here. So it beautifully does sort of mirror that energy of, I know that the new is coming, I know that the new version of me desires to be here, but I'm still energetically attached to this. So by looking at house placements of where these eclipses were eclipsing areas within your life can help us understand where the veil needs to be dropped in self, so that we can see our positioning more clearly. Okay, so hopefully the reading helps. All right, my dear. The 4th and 10th house were what was being activated for you guys, and that I can rewind the clock right back to 2018. Home and hearth, feeling at home. What makes me feel at home? These themes could have been presenting within your home environment and noticing massive shifts and changes. Could have been presenting within your life, leading you back into childhood, leading you back to the mother, if you like. But more importantly, this strong identity of what and who do I want to call home? What feels like home to me? When I'm working with the 4th and 10th houses, the 10th house was being ruled by Capricorn. There were old structures as far as recognition, desire for recognition, old career paths that you guys were transitioning, okay? You could have found yourself rewinding the clock back to the past, picking up an old role, picking up an old habit, really reviewing your old views on why you were in this thing, okay, when it comes to career matters. Maybe you were no longer feeling at home. When I'm working with 4th and 10th house, I'm desiring a new fit. I'm desiring to, you know, finally recognize what makes me feel at home, why I'm doing this thing. This whole theme of recognition would have been under play thanks to the Capricorn placement in your 10th house. This concept of a desire for recognition as well, okay? And maybe these themes stemmed from childhood. As we transition out of that in the middle of 2020 last year, there was aha moments, okay, about the role of the mother and the father, okay, because the 4th house is ruled by Cancer, the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn. There was a strong divine feminine and divine masculine theme weaving through your lives for the final 2 years that led us into 2020, really looking at you, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, really looking at your role as a woman, as a man, whether you find yourself being a mother, whether you find yourself being a father. This patterning was a bigger theme, and in many ways, perhaps at certain levels of consciousness, these present within areas of our lives that we're willing to have aha moments, okay, Aries, because perhaps in that 2 years between 2018 to 2020, there was a very big focus on your career. Okay, maybe there was a strong sense of tying your identity to it when it comes to recognition, when it comes to kicking goals. So when our focus is 100% on one area of our life, when soul wants us to work with something in particular, naturally if our attention is there, that's where the plate will be presented. So you may have noticed challenges, aha moments, amazing opportunities, this theme that ultimately weaves a greater story, okay? And in many ways, if I was working with deep soul healing, I would have gone back and traveled back to childhood and really looked at things like what made me choose this career path, what patterning within childhood, what significant events made me lead to my why of this. What does career mean to me? What does recognition mean to me? What does home mean to me when I'm looking at 4th house themes? What does it mean to be a mother? What does it mean to be a father? And if I haven't had the opportunity to play that role yet, how has life taught me that that role comes packaged, and is it safe? Does it feel like home? Did I receive recognition? Okay, deeper soul themes. That energy in very many ways will receive a bottleneck for you this year. You're almost wanting to come to some sense of freedom, okay? Because we have already closed off the Cancer Capricorn axis, and then we introduced the Gemini Sagittarian axis. And now for many of you Arians, for all of you Arians in one way or another, you will notice this energy of what you had been integrating in 4th and 10th house has now transitioned and desires to be released and experienced within 3rd house and 9th house. Now our 3rd house rules communications, connection to siblings. I could literally, from a healing point of view, if I was looking at upbringing, notice how I am quite different to a sibling. We grew up in the same house, raised by the same mother and the same father. How come your life path went this way and my life path went that way? Maybe you've noticed those themes since 2020 kicked off and you found yourself reconnecting with siblings. The 3rd house primarily is a communication house. Maybe you found yourself actively desiring, wanting to communicate anything related to 4th and 10th house themes. Home and hearth, childhood, what and who makes me feel at home. 10th house being recognition. You may have found yourself speaking up. Okay, this no longer fits me, this career, I'm desiring something new. You literally could have actively searched and sought change, and you might have found circumstances crumbling, changing, out of your control or at your navigation, take it however it resonates, and found yourself having to deeply engage in 3rd house activities last year, researching, applying for jobs, communicating, letting other people know. Maybe you found new opportunities of learning within your closer networks, within your day-to-day surroundings, okay? Because with the Sagittarian activating the South Node, as of last year, you've moved from that 10th house focus of career and recognition into 9th house, and maybe many Arians that I'm connecting into were desiring to learn something or found themselves having to have learning moments, or like, I thought I knew everything about this area, but I, substantially desire now to learn something completely different. In very practical ways, you could have engaged, actively working with higher self in one way or another, activating spiritual experiences, activating connections to your higher self, whatever that means to you. Learning how to communicate with higher self. What is my higher self trying to communicate to me? Why do I have these repeating themes in 4th and 10th house matters that came to a bottleneck by the middle of last year? What is my higher self trying to communicate with me? Yeah, so when I'm looking at 4th and 10th, the transition of the old into the new energy, the 3rd and the 9th. 3rd house rules siblings, communication, travel. You could literally, on practical experience, have experienced restrictions to travel. Didn't everyone? You might have experienced communications. You might have looked at that area of communications where you would like to learn something new, better communication skills. Take it however it resonates. Maybe you noticed patterning that has stemmed from childhood, that fundamentally links into your connection to self as a woman, as a man, as a mother, as a father. All those significant roles, how they played out to you, what was patterned and handed down to you, Aries, as far as generational trauma and repatterning goes, and how has that affected not only your experience of the home, but your experience and understanding and perceptions about recognition and success. More importantly, your communication style, whether you feel like there needs to be expansion in that area, your connection to siblings, your connection to your local environment, your connection to travel or desiring to travel away, avoiding issues, traveling so I don't have to face those 4th and 10th house themes. What was calling to you as far as what was desiring to be learned and to have massive aha moments and deeper integration. The 9th house is a closing cycle, and in many ways, Aries, even as a healing journey for the soul, okay? Going back the last 4 or 5 years in many ways would have presented, not 4 years, so I'll mention the numbers in a minute. So since 2018, I want to take you back to the end of 2017. All right, so since that period, it is 4 years, yeah, because we're 2021 now, goodness gracious. What is it about connecting into something that is larger than all of us? You know, what is this greater philosophy that ultimately we thought events were happening in our career, we thought events were happening within our home environment, we thought events were happening within communication issues, but there was a weaving of a greater story here, okay? And this connection to higher self, this philosophy of the ninth house, this higher learning, this embracing and just being humbly open enough to learn a whole new way of doing any of those things has been your greatest growth opportunity. Okay? I can just talk about the astrology, but I'm going to have a look at some tarot in representation of those houses and areas of your life. There's been a very, very practical assessment. Okay, this could even span the last 7 years. Maybe the last 7 months in very many ways has provided a return for you as far as aha moments, as far as a deeper integration areas. Take it however it resonates. The Seven of Coins is a very practical assessment energy. 4th and 10th house, there was very much this idea of wanting to have this experience of belonging, but perhaps feeling like time has moved too fast. Now, you could literally be experiencing both the shadow and the light of these. When I rewind the clock to the end of 2017 into 2020, okay, maybe many areas I'm connecting into were very much about having fun and fast-moving energy and lifestyles that were, you know, embracing this very fast-moving energy. But I do want to rewind you back to the reasons why behind these eclipse transitions, okay, and what they were ultimately presenting you with. This original sense of belonging and feeling a part of something. How have you not experienced that perhaps from your earlier days, your earlier memories of 4th house, home and hearth? So you've then sought to seek that elsewhere. Maybe you desired to find belonging within communities that you're a part of. Maybe you desired to feel belonging in workplaces, in career paths that made you feel like you had a home. How have you replaced the sense of home with sense of career and attached your identity to that? And I do wonder, how did energy move so fast within career matters that it ultimately disconnected you? And then in many ways, perhaps some of you did return to those connections, or at least identify connections that made you feel at home. There's almost like what I'm feeling in this energy is, you know, I can sign up to major organizations or even military or whatever the case may be, and that is my brother or sisterhood, okay? And perhaps I'm seeking that sense of belonging because I didn't experience it in the home environment, okay? So I feel like I'm connecting to many areas that sort of experience that transition, a lot of massive changes, communication, sudden or otherwise, out of nowhere, okay, is what I do want to say. More importantly, a deeper desire to connect into those that feel like home as well. Okay, recognizing the importance of emotional harmony within connections was the greatest lesson. And maybe between 2018 to 2020, many of you were identifying this concept of love and connectivity and changes, and noticing changes within communication too, for better or worse. And as we develop and expand, you know, we're always clearing old ways of doing things. 3rd and 9th house, you know, there was a practical new way of experiencing emotions, communications, expressing apologies, expressing emotional truths. Where did you sort of feel like you distracted yourself with fun, this sense of frivolity, this sense of like, because this feels like what's underneath the surface. On the surface, you look like you're having fun, but what was the emotional truth behind that? Okay, where did communications desire to happen and perhaps didn't? Where did you feel like things were changing within circumstances, within life? Maybe an apology was owed to you. Maybe you owed an apology, okay, in a long-standing connection that you thought was home to you, okay, friendship or otherwise. there's also this energy of a commitment, this review of a commitment, what I will commit to moving forward, what I sort of want to open my heart to in the realms of career moving forward, what I'm willing or how I need to look at communication and how I open the heart in the realms of practical new beginnings of a way forward, because there's been this metamorphosis. I want to take you back not just 9 months, but back to when you were 19, 10 years ago even, from 10th house themes. There was a higher learning here. Okay, and it required you to alter this energy of communication, alter the processes of communication within you and with others, where there was an avoidance of communicating emotional truth. Okay, and that could relate to 4th house matters. You might have experienced that within the home. You might have experienced that within partnerships. You might have experienced that on the career front. You might not have felt recognized within the home. You may have felt like you've never had recognition your whole life since your original home. Take it however it resonates. There's this integration and a releasing. Okay, this bottleneck energy of 4th and 10th house themes are coming. Like this is the old way of doing things. And also too, Aries, as an Arian, you know, that rushing, that communication, that can be a little bit overindulgent. Because the 3 of Cups is like a party energy, okay? Because when I see that in transit, like working with the Page of Cups is offering an emotional exchange that is very practical and grounded. It's not frivolous. This feels frivolous to me. Where was I focused on the surface as far as 10th house matters, career, recognition, feeling at home? Perhaps I was focused on something that wasn't quite solid as far as what's my genuine connection to my why and why I'm doing this thing. I feel very strongly. Many of you have been having very strong thoughts about transitions in career and doing very practical assessments, and maybe it was the money that was keeping you there. It was the recognition, the communications from others that made you feel like you were a part of something. Take it however it resonates, okay? But there's this youthful way of opening our heart to something greater, and that's what you've been experiencing since last year with the Gemini Sagittarian transition. There is a beautiful opportunity for you guys to really make new beginnings. The Ace of Pentacles leads to a larger 10 of Pentacles. It is the building of a dynasty. Maybe you kicked off a new career last year that ultimately, or a learning experience that ultimately opens your heart to a whole new way of doing this thing called career. You're recognizing something about yourself as far as no longer desiring just to tick a couple of boxes when it comes to how I spend my 9 to 5, but it also needs to tick my desires when it comes to spiritual alignment or being a part of a greater purpose or whatever the case may be. There's this energetic weight of carrying the responsibilities of others to carry, is what I do want to say. What have you been carrying? A belief, a perception that no longer serves. This energy is going to be amplified this year because there will be one eclipse, okay? So this is the Cancer Capricorn eclipse. This is the Gemini Sagittarian eclipse cycles. We also are introducing a Taurus Scorpio ecliptical cycle with a Taurus eclipse this year in November. This is the greatest story of the next 2 years. This 10 of Wands energy. What am I carrying that is no longer mine to carry? Again, go deeper still. Patterning from childhood, patterning around recognition and these concepts of around success, money, who you are, the desire for belonging, to be a part of something. What is it that you carry that ultimately shapes many, many, many choices, not just those related to home, not just those related to career? There's an amazing heart-opening, practical opportunity to begin again, Aries. Okay, that's the gift of Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse, and many of you will be making these amazing new beginnings, but be mindful of how, like I said, when we're transitioning 1 step forward, 2 steps back, you're still going to be playing these themes out this year, and there's a greater story there. Like, this is a karmic closure of energy that was not yours to carry to begin with, where you've come from. This very big focus on the outer layer, the physical layer, the practical layers of life, what I can achieve. Maybe there was a very big focus on your physical health in one way or another. Okay, take it however it may be. You've experienced health problems. But when I look at the health card, it's my physical reality, okay? How I'm connected to the surface, how I'm connected to the tangible, what defines me, how I attach myself to that, okay? It's also about manifestation. It's also about, you know, it draws my attention to my health. I'm going to say, like, you're coming at a very fast moving, almost frivolous energy here that feels like surface stuff. And it was about going deeper still into the heart space, okay, of deeper patterning, of deeper stuff that we carry. All right, that's where you've come from, this focus on the health, this focus on the surface, the body, the practical realities of life, to where you're going. This is the journey of this ecliptical cycle for you, this beautiful activation, okay, of third eye energy when the honesty card shows up. How have you been deceiving yourself? How has this energy of dishonesty on some level, or not going deeper still below the surface, how has it kept you separated ultimately from your third eye, from truly seeing the truth of all of the reasons and, you know, the purposes behind the patterning and the situations that have been attracted into your life, the experiences of your life? Okay. I feel like in many ways, if you haven't, 2021 is an amazing opportunity to finally communicate and release the burdens that have impacted you within a social network, within a friendship circle, okay, is what I do want to say. With this full moon in Leo as well coming up, there are beautiful practical opportunities when it comes to heart space energy to feel deeply grounded in self as far as a vision for the future. Like I said, we're coming out of, you know, we've been in this holding zone and many in the collective are feeling it. You know, am I just surviving or am I thriving? Like, look back on the journey, see how far you have come, okay? See where you are going, all right? But definitely these ecliptical cycles tell a much, much bigger story, my lovely Aries, okay? And in many ways, you know, like you guys have got a lot of cups and a lot of wands here and coins. You know, perhaps you have transitioned a lot when it comes to the influence of the mind. You've chosen not to be logical, practical, driven by the mind. You've gone into heart space. You've desired to connect into your energy space again, your fire, your passion, your excitement for life. And really ground that down into the everyday realities that you find yourself in by making career decisions around that, relationship decisions around that. And that in itself is truly transforming when it comes to the emotional body and the energetic body. I feel like in many ways you guys were pressing reset on how you expended your physical energy, okay? Like go, 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 and how much that was truly not honoring what you were sort of perhaps needing on a deeper healing level at the time, especially during 2020. It was an amazing year to sort of call your energy back and really get into heart space and decide, you know, what do I want to build moving forward, and does it come from here? Okay, there you go, Aries. That was your ecliptical transition reading, taking a look at the ecliptical cycles between, you know, well, they go back to 2018, but as we transition from 2020 into 2021, and a bigger story still over the next 2 years thanks to the Taurus Scorpio eclipses, okay? Hope you got something out of that, my friend. If you would like to book a personal reading, by all means, you can find that in the description box below. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like, share, subscribe. And if you're watching, well, you won't be watching on Instagram. I'll just post these to YouTube. Alrighty, my friend, take care.